If you feel nothing when he touches you, but you still love him, you need to understand what is happening before you try to fix anything, because what hurts the most is not just the absence of desire, it is realizing that your body no longer reacts the way it used to, and you cannot explain why you are still there. You still care, you still want your relationship to work, but something inside you does not activate anymore. And that creates a quiet confusion that follows you even when everything else seems normal. You start noticing things you cannot ignore. You pull away without thinking. You feel uncomfortable in moments that used to feel natural. You avoid staying too close, not because you want to, but because something inside you is already preparing to disconnect before anything even happens. And that is when the question starts to form in your mind in a way that feels heavier each time. Is this about my relationship? Or is something wrong with me? And that question stays with you longer than you would like because you do not have a clear answer. You try to explain it with stress, routine, tiredness, emotional distance, but none of that fully explains what you're feeling, because the truth is more specific and at the same time harder to see. This is not just emotional, this is not just mental, this is your body responding differently, and that changes everything. Because when you believe this is about love or connection, you try to fix it by talking more, trying harder, being more present, forcing yourself to engage. But when your body is not responding, those efforts do not create desire, they create pressure. And pressure slowly replaces what used to feel natural. There is a phase that many women go through, but almost no one talks about it openly. You are still in the relationship. You are still committed. You still want things to work, but your internal response is no longer aligned with your intentions, and that disconnect creates a tension that is hard to carry. You lie next to him and turn away, not because you want to reject him, but because you already know what is coming and you do not feel ready for it. You receive a touch, and instead of reacting, naturally you start thinking about how to respond, what to say, how to avoid going further. And this happens so quietly that even you have difficulty noticing when it started. And because it is not obvious, you try to ignore it. You tell yourself it is temporary, that things will go back to normal, that you just need time. But time alone does not change what your body is no longer responding to. And this is where something important happens, something that defines whether this distance grows or starts to change. You begin to force yourself. You believe that if you try enough, if you allow the moment to happen, if you push yourself a little, the feeling will come back. But there is something no one tells you about this every time you go through an experience. Without truly feeling present, your body records that moment as something disconnected, something mechanical, something you are enduring instead of experiencing. And over time, your body starts associating touch with effort instead of pleasure. And that association changes your response even more so. The next time he touches you, your body reacts less, not because you care less, but because it has learned to protect you from something that no longer feels natural. And that is how the cycle begins. You feel less, you try harder, you disconnect more, and then you start avoiding even small moments of contact, because avoiding feels easier than facing that internal discomfort. And this creates a distance that is not only physical, it becomes emotional too. And then something even more difficult begins to happen. You start questioning yourself, you start wondering if something inside you changed permanently, if you lost something, if this is who you are now. But this is where you need to shift your understanding. You did not lose your desire, your body stopped responding. And that is a completely different situation, because when you think you lost desire, you look for emotional answers. But when your body stops responding, you need a different approach. Your body is not broken, it is just not receiving the type of stimulation it needs anymore to activate the same response over time. Sensitivity changes. What once felt immediate may now require a different kind of activation, a different intensity, a different approach. And when that does not happen, your body simply does not engage, and without engagement, desire cannot exist. This is why trying to think your way into feeling does not work, because desire is not something you decide, it is something your body allows. And when your body starts to respond again, even in a small way, everything begins to shift. You stop anticipating discomfort, you stop preparing to avoid, you begin to relax, and that relaxation creates space for sensation to return. But for that to happen, you need to interrupt two patterns that are silently maintaining this distance. The first is forcing yourself into situations where you are not present. The second is avoiding all forms of touch as a way to protect yourself. Both reinforce the same outcome: disconnection, because when you force, your body learns resistance, and when you avoid, your body forgets sensation. And in both cases, the distance grows. What starts to change? This is a different approach, one that removes pressure and reintroduces sensation gradually, without expectation, without obligation, without the need for anything to happen beyond the moment itself. This is where many women begin to notice a shift, not because they tried harder, but because they stopped interfering with the natural process of response. But there is still one missing piece, because waiting for your body to respond on its own can take time. And during that time, the disconnection can deepen. Your body sometimes needs support to react again to stimulation in a natural way, without depending on mental effort or emotional pressure. And when that support is present, the response becomes easier, more immediate, and more consistent. And this is where things start to change in a way that feels real. Because when your body responds, you no longer need to convince yourself, you no longer need to prepare or anticipate. Your body leads and your mind follows, and that removes the weight you have been carrying. You stop feeling like something is wrong with you and start understanding that you were just approaching it from the wrong angle. And when you feel again, even slightly, something shifts inside you. You become more present, more open, more willing, and that reflects directly in how you connect with him. Touch becomes lighter, moments feel possible again, and the relationship starts to regain a type of connection that felt distant before. This is not about becoming someone else. This is about allowing your body to function with the right kind of support so that the response you thought you lost can exist again. And this is the point where everything started to change for me, because for a long time I kept trying to fix this. Mentally, I thought I needed to feel more, to try harder, to reconnect through effort. But nothing really changed until I understood that my body needed help to respond again in the moment, not later, not over time. But right there, when touch happens, and when I understood that, I stopped trying to solve everything on my own and started looking for something that could support my body directly in that moment, without pressure, without preparation, and without depending on how I felt mentally. That is when I found a cream called Vigorelle, and I know it might sound simple, but that simplicity is exactly what made the difference. Because it works directly on sensitivity, it helps your body respond naturally to touch, without needing to force yourself into the mood or wait for something to happen. And the first thing I noticed was not emotional, it was physical. My body reacted again in a way I had not felt in a long time, without effort, without resistance. And when that happens, everything else starts to shift. You relax. You stop anticipating discomfort. You stop avoiding, and you allow yourself to be present again, and that changes the entire experience, because when your body responds, your mind no longer needs to. convince you you are not trying to feel something, you are feeling it, and that is what starts to reconnect everything little by little. Touch becomes natural again. Moments feel lighter, and what once felt distant starts to feel possible. And if this is something that feels familiar to you, there is a way to support your body in this process without pressure, without forcing, and without depending only on your mind if you want to. Understand how it works. I left the link in the description, and there is also a QR code on the screen. Take a look when you are ready and subscribe to the channel here. We talk about intimacy and how to rebuild your self-esteem.